Welcome, and thank you for joining this deep dive into the rich and mysterious world of Celtic folklore. Today, we're embarking on an extraordinary journey through the ancient lands of Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, lands where myths and legends are as deeply woven into the fabric of the landscape as the winds that sweep through the hills and the waves that crash against the rugged coastlines. These lands are not just known for their natural beauty, but for their rich tapestry of ancient stories. The Celtic world is one of folklore, where every stone circle, every ancient mound, and every mist-shrouded lake carries the echoes of tales passed down through generations. It's a world where the boundary between the natural and the supernatural has always been thin, and where mystical beings, cryptids, spirits, and gods dwell in the shadows, influencing the lives and beliefs of the Celtic people. In this video, we will journey through these mythical landscapes to uncover some of the most fascinating beings in Celtic mythology. From the eerie wail of the Banshee, a harbinger of death, to the mischievous and enigmatic leprechaun, these figures have shaped Celtic culture and continue to capture our imagination. But we're not just here to tell these stories. We'll dive deep into their origins, explore their significance, and understand the lessons they have to offer. This journey into Celtic folklore has been a personal quest. The ancient stories not only reflect the fears, hopes, and values of the Celtic people, but also how they've persisted across centuries, evolving while still remaining deeply connected to the land. Many of these tales have been passed down orally, which means much of the magic, the mystery, and the wisdom they carry is hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be rediscovered. So, as we explore the ghosts and cryptids, the fairies and spirits of the Celtic world, I invite you to share in this experience. If you're intrigued by the myths of these ancient lands, make sure to like the video. And if you're new here, consider subscribing to join the journey. Don't forget to leave a comment below with your thoughts. What Celtic legends have always fascinated you? Is there a particular myth or creature you're eager to learn more about? I'd love to hear your ideas. Let's dive into the first of these incredible beings, the Banshee, and begin our exploration of the ancient myths, cryptids, and creatures that continue to haunt the Celtic world. Thank you for joining this journey, and let's uncover the secrets of a world just beyond our reach. Among the mist-shrouded hills and ancient stone circles of the Irish countryside, there exists a sound that resonates deep into the hearts of those who hear it. It is a cry, a wail so mournful, so filled with sorrow, that it seems to carry the weight of the entire world's grief. The cry of the Banshee. This eerie, otherworldly sound is not just the lament of a ghostly figure, but a harbinger of death, a signal that the end is near for someone within the noble families of Ireland. To hear the Banshee's cry is to understand that death is imminent, but it is also a call that binds the living and the dead in a profound, spiritual way. The Banshee is not just a figure from Celtic folklore. She is a supernatural messenger, tied to the very bloodlines of Ireland's most ancient and noble families. Her cry is more than a mere sound. It is a spiritual event that transcends distance and even time. Whether heard outside a home, drifting in from the misty moors, or rising from the darkened valleys, the Banshee's call serves as both a warning and a reminder of life's fragility. She does not cry for just anyone. Her lament is reserved for the purest lines of Irish descent, marking the end of an era, the passing of a soul whose connection to history, to the old families, is strong and unbroken. The Banshee is often misunderstood. To many, she is simply a ghost or a spirit, but she is much more than that. She is a messenger, one that straddles the line between the living and the dead. In Celtic mythology, the Banshee is not simply a phantom who appears after death has already occurred. She is a spiritual figure, a guardian tied directly to the noble families of Ireland, acting as a herald of death, but also a protector of those families and their ancestral legacies. Her very nature sets her apart from the typical spirits that roam the earth in search of unfinished business. The Banshee's role is intricately tied to her connection with the ancient families. Her cry is not a random act, but a spiritual obligation, woven into the very fabric of Irish belief systems. To hear her cry is to witness an event that signifies the impending passing of a family member. The Banshee's wail is a ritual, a custom that speaks to the deep respect for the cycles of life and death that were revered in the Celtic worldview. In ancient Ireland, where ancestry and bloodlines held immense importance, the Banshee served a dual purpose. She was a guardian spirit, watching over the noble families, ensuring their lineage continued and was honored. But she was also a figure of mourning, marking the inevitable transition from life to death. Her existence was both sacred and solemn, a figure whose cry not only foretold death, but also ensured that the transition was made with dignity, in keeping with the traditions of the old ways. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Banshee is the cry she emits. Descriptions of her cry are numerous, and each one is filled with a distinct and palpable sense of sorrow. In many accounts, the cry is a sharp, high-pitched shriek, like the shattering of glass, that pierces the silence of the night. This shriek can be heard from miles away, carried by the wind, a warning to those who are close to the passing soul. The sound is so intense, so raw, that it sends chills down the spine of anyone who hears it, signifying the arrival of death. Other accounts describe the Banshee's cry as a mournful sob, a low and heartbreaking wail that rises and falls in waves, as if the very earth itself were weeping. The cry is said to be both a lament for the deceased and an expression of the Banshee's own sorrow. This sobbing sound creates an eerie, sorrowful atmosphere that echoes the grief of the living and the dead alike, filling the air with a profound sense of loss. It is a reminder that the bond between life and death is not always clear, and that both worlds are deeply intertwined. In some variations of the legend, the Banshee's cry takes the form of a beautiful, haunting song known as the Queener. This song is sung in a melodious, almost hypnotic tune, a lament that weaves through the night, carrying with it an air of inevitability. The music, while enchanting, is deeply sorrowful, and those who hear it often speak of feeling as though they are being drawn into a dreamlike trance, overwhelmed by a sense of grief and loss that they cannot escape. Interestingly, the cry of the Banshee also has a close connection to the ancient Irish tradition of keening. Keening was a ritual practice in which professional mourners, known as keeners, would gather at funerals and sing lamentations for the deceased. These keeners were women who would vocalize their grief through songs and wails, recounting the deceased's life and achievements, while also expressing the community's sorrow. The Banshee is often seen as the ultimate expression of this tradition. In a sense, she is the first keener, the one who begins the mourning process before death even occurs. Her cry is not just an announcement of an impending death, but the beginning of the collective grieving process for a family, a community, and a lineage. The appearance of the Banshee is as varied as the tales told about her. She has been described in many ways, depending on the region and the specific family's beliefs. The most common depiction is that of a beautiful, ethereal woman with long, flowing silver or white hair, draped in a gray or green cloak. Her eyes are often described as being red from weeping, her face pale and sorrowful from the eternal grief she carries. This version of the Banshee is often seen as a spectral figure, shimmering in the moonlight, her presence both calming and sorrowful, as though she were a vision of the past, forever tethered to the world of the living. In contrast, other accounts depict the Banshee as a terrifying old hag, bent and frail, her face twisted in an eternal expression of sorrow. This version of the Banshee is often far more frightening, her appearance less ethereal and more grotesque. Her features are described as twisted and aged, her eyes sunken and hollow from centuries of crying. The old hag version of the Banshee is a more menacing presence, evoking fear and dread in those who encounter her. One of the most distinctive aspects of the Banshee's appearance is her association with a comb. In many tales, the Banshee is seen with a comb, which she uses to comb her long, flowing hair as she weeps. This comb is said to be magical, and folklore warns that to find a comb lying on a path or in the forest is to invite misfortune. It is believed that the comb belongs to the Banshee, and that taking it is an offense that will bring the Banshee's wrath. This connection between the Banshee and her comb further links her to the supernatural world, as combs in many cultures have long been considered objects of power and protection. Despite the terror her appearance may inspire, the Banshee is not a malevolent figure. Unlike many other ghostly beings, she does not cause death or seek to harm the living. Instead, she serves as a solemn messenger, a guide between the worlds of the living and the dead. Her appearance is a reminder that death is not to be feared but acknowledged, and that it is an inevitable part of life's cycle. The Banshee's role is not one of destruction but of mourning, guiding souls to the afterlife with a final, haunting cry. In ancient Celtic society, the Banshee held an important and multifaceted role. She was a spiritual figure, a guardian tied to the noble families of Ireland. Her cry, while frightening, was a necessary part of the natural order. It was a reminder of the spiritual connections that bound families together and a reflection of the Celtic belief in the interconnectedness of life, death, and the other world. The Banshee's role was deeply tied to the customs and rituals surrounding death. In Celtic culture, death was not seen as an end, but as a transition. The Banshee's cry was an announcement that this transition was imminent, signaling the moment when the veil between worlds would become thin. Her presence marked the beginning of the mourning process, and her cry was both a warning and a comfort. In a way, the Banshee helped prepare the living for the loss they were about to experience. The Banshee's connection to the noble families of Ireland further underscores her role as a protector of lineage and ancestry. Her cry was reserved for those of pure Irish descent, particularly the great families whose names had echoed through history. To have a Banshee cry for a family was to signify that their lineage was old, important, and worthy of such a supernatural honor. The Banshee's involvement in these families' lives linked them to the ancient gods and spirits of the land, reinforcing their place in the eternal cycle of life and death. At the same time, the Banshee's role as a keener, a vocal mourner, was a reflection of the broader cultural practices surrounding death and grief in Celtic society. In rural Ireland, the tradition of keening was an essential part of funerals, with women hired to lament the passing of the deceased. These keeners were not just mourners, they were keepers of memory, expressing the community's sorrow and preserving the life of the deceased through song and story. The Banshee, as the first and greatest keener, was the embodiment of this tradition. Her cry was a prelude to the mourning rituals, and her presence was an acknowledgement of the deep respect for the dead in Celtic culture. The Banshee is a figure that stands at the crossroads between life and death, between the living world and the other world. She is both a warning and a guide, a symbol of the deep respect and reverence that the Celts held for their ancestors and the forces of nature. Her cry is a reminder that death is not something to be feared, but something that should be honored. In the Banshee, we see the Celtic belief in the interconnectedness of all things life, death, and the spirits that reside between. The Banshee's role in Celtic society, both as a messenger and a protector, reflects the cultural values of the Celts and their enduring connection to the land and the gods. Through her story, we are reminded that the veil between this world and the next is never truly closed, and that the spirits of the past continue to walk among us. The leprechaun, one of the most iconic figures in Irish folklore, has a history as rich and layered as the emerald landscapes of Ireland itself. Over the centuries, the leprechaun has evolved from a minor, mystical being into a widely recognized symbol of Ireland. However, the journey from its ancient beginnings to the mischievous, pot of gold-bearing figure we know today is a fascinating story of transformation, one rooted deeply in the mythological traditions of early Irish culture. In its earliest incarnations, the leprechaun was not the tiny, buckled shoe-wearing figure that popular culture would later embrace. Rather, the leprechaun began life as a water spirit, a creature tied to the ancient Celtic reverence for the elemental forces of nature. This connection to water spirits was not unusual in Celtic mythology, where many beings were thought to emerge from the depths of lakes, rivers, and seas, places considered sacred and filled with magic. Leprechauns, in their earliest forms, were thought to be small, elusive water spirits who inhabited the streams, rivers, and other waterways of Ireland. They were part of the larger pantheon of mystical beings, connected to the natural world and embodying its unpredictable and untamable qualities. The first literary mention of the leprechaun in Irish mythology comes from the Ectra Fergus MacLightly, a medieval Irish saga. In this tale, King Fergus of Ulster has an encounter with a trio of diminutive water spirits. These creatures, called Luachra or Luska, meaning little bodies, are far from the cheerful figures we know today. They are tiny, water-dwelling beings who, although not malicious, cause trouble by dragging the unsuspecting into the water. This early reference paints the leprechaun as an elemental spirit of the water, tied to the unpredictable and at times dangerous forces of the natural world. As a water spirit, the leprechaun shared many characteristics with other Celtic water deities, such as the Selkies of Scottish and Irish folklore, who could shed their sealskin to become human, or the various river spirits that appear in Celtic mythology as guardians of sacred waters. However, this early leprechaun was a much more passive figure, one that inhabited the margins of the Celtic world, rarely appearing and often staying out of sight. Over time, however, this water spirit would undergo a dramatic transformation that would shift its identity from a minor, ethereal figure into one of the most enduring and recognizable symbols of Irish culture. The shift from water spirit to land-dwelling creature marked a significant change in the nature of the leprechaun. While it began life associated with water, the leprechaun eventually found its place in the terrestrial world of Irish myth. It was no longer just a spirit tied to water, but had morphed into a more grounded and domesticated figure. This transformation can be traced to a gradual evolution in folklore where the leprechaun began to take on new associations and characteristics. One of the most important steps in this evolution was the leprechaun's association with craft and solitude. As Celtic society progressed, the leprechaun shed its original connection to the wild and elemental forces of water and was redefined in terms of more earthly pursuits. The leprechaun began to be seen as a solitary creature, a shoemaker by trade. This new role focused on craftsmanship, and the quiet, meticulous work of cobbling cemented the leprechaun's place in the folklore of Ireland, casting it as a figure of modest yet clever labor. The shoemaker's profession is significant because it represents a shift from the mythical and the supernatural to something more mundane, relatable, and human. The image of the leprechaun as a solitary cobbler fits neatly into the broader landscape of Irish folklore, where many magical beings are connected to crafts, trades, or domestic life. The leprechaun, once a water spirit, had now taken on a human-like role, reflecting the Celtic values of hard work, craftsmanship, and quiet determination. As a shoemaker, the leprechaun was no longer a mere water spirit. He had become a figure connected to daily life, albeit one that remained elusive and mysterious. In many ways, the leprechaun's shift to a cobbler is symbolic of the larger narrative arc of Irish folklore, which frequently juxtaposes the magical with the mundane. By taking on the role of a craftsman, the leprechaun exemplifies the value of skill, labor, and practicality, but it also retains a connection to the magical and the mysterious. Though he may be a shoemaker, the leprechaun is not of the ordinary world. His small size, his magic, and his elusive nature keep him grounded in the realms of the supernatural. Central to the leprechaun's myth is the idea of treasure. The image of the leprechaun guarding a pot of gold is one of the most enduring and well-known aspects of his folklore. But the treasure associated with the leprechaun was not always as straightforward as the iconic pot of gold. The leprechaun's treasure was, and still is, a symbol of wealth, cunning, and deception. The treasure in early tales was often depicted as a magical purse that never ran out of money, a self-replenishing source of wealth that was both tempting and dangerous. In the stories, the leprechaun was said to possess this purse, which could provide endless amounts of wealth to its owner. This magical wealth represented the allure of fortune and the dangers of greed, as the leprechaun's treasure was never meant to be easily obtained. The tale of capturing a leprechaun and gaining access to his treasure is one of the most popular and enduring elements of his myth. According to the folklore, if a person were to capture a leprechaun, they could demand that he reveal the location of his treasure. However, the leprechaun was famously tricky and would do everything in his power to escape. His quick wit, sly nature, and cunning ability to deceive made him a difficult figure to capture. The leprechaun would often promise to reveal the location of his treasure, but would use his magic and trickery to escape before the person could claim it. This constant elusiveness became a key feature of the leprechaun's character and contributed to his development as a symbol of cleverness and deceit. Over time, this image of the leprechaun as a trickster guarding a pot of gold became synonymous with him in popular culture. His treasure, often hidden in a secluded spot, was the object of numerous quests, and many tales centered around individuals attempting to catch him and claim his wealth. In this way, the leprechaun embodied the dangers of greed, a common theme in Irish folklore, where the pursuit of wealth often led to misfortune or loss. The leprechaun's treasure was also a symbol of self-replenishing wealth. The magical purse or pot of gold was seen as a reflection of the leprechaun's trickery. He had control over wealth, but it was wealth that could never truly be obtained. The leprechaun's treasure was not a gift to the mortal world, but rather a symbol of the impossibility of truly capturing magic or fortune. Those who sought his treasure were often foiled by his cunning, and the idea that the treasure could never be fully obtained served as a warning against greed. While the leprechaun is most often depicted as a crafty but harmless shoemaker, there is another, darker side to this fairy figure. This counterpart, known as the clurichaun, is often seen as the leprechaun's nocturnal alter ego, where the leprechaun is associated with industriousness, craft, and wealth. The clurichaun embodies the darker, more mischievous side of the same being. The clurichaun is a nocturnal spirit who delights in chaos, particularly when it comes to wine and drunkenness. He is described as a small, mischievous creature who spends his time haunting breweries, taverns, and wine cellars, causing trouble for those who partake in the pleasures of drink. The clurichaun's love for wine and his penchant for mischief make him a disruptive presence in the folklore of Ireland, where he would often wreak havoc by making wine spoil or by tormenting those who worked in breweries. Much like the leprechaun, the clurichaun is a figure that thrives on trickery and deception. He takes pleasure in creating chaos and disorder, often at the expense of others. He is known to cause confusion and frustration for the humans he encounters, particularly those who were involved in the production or consumption of alcohol. His antics were seen as a reflection of the dangers of excess and indulgence, mirroring the darker side of the leprechaun's more famous wealth-related tricks. While the clurichaun shares many similarities with the leprechaun, he also represents the duality of the leprechaun myth. The leprechaun's industriousness and cunning are counterbalanced by the clurichaun's chaotic and destructive nature. This contrast highlights the dual nature of many fairy figures in Irish folklore, who often embody both positive and negative traits. The clurichaun is a reminder that while the leprechaun may offer treasure, it is often a gift that comes with a price, one that can be as much a curse as a blessing. The leprechaun, with its roots in ancient Irish mythology, has undergone a transformation over the centuries. From a water spirit to a cobbling fairy, the leprechaun's evolution reflects broader changes in Irish folklore and society. Today, the leprechaun is primarily known as a mischievous trickster, guarding his treasure and outwitting those who seek to capture him. However, this iconic figure has a much deeper and richer history, one that speaks to the complexities of Irish folklore and the role that these mythical beings played in the lives of the Celtic people. The leprechaun's association with wealth and trickery, as well as his dual nature, embodies the complexity of human desires and the consequences of seeking fortune. The clurichaun, his darker counterpart, serves as a reminder that indulgence and excess can lead to chaos and destruction. Together, these figures represent the balance of light and dark, of creation and destruction, that permeates Irish folklore and mythology. Through their stories, we are reminded that fortune is fleeting, and the pursuit of it can lead to unforeseen consequences, trickery, deception, and, at times, ruin. In the vast and mystical landscapes of Scottish and Northern Irish folklore, among the most cherished yet elusive beings is the brownie. Often regarded as a helpful spirit, the brownie is one of the most enduring characters in Celtic mythology, yet it is a figure that remains shrouded in mystery. Unlike other supernatural entities in folklore, the brownie is not a force of destruction or terror, but rather an unseen benefactor, offering its services to the family in exchange for a simple yet profound gesture of respect. The brownie is a type of household spirit that has been deeply woven into the fabric of Scottish and Irish rural life for centuries. They are said to be small, shaggy creatures, often depicted as covered in fur or coarse hair, with an appearance that blends into the natural surroundings of the home or farmstead. Despite their modest size and somewhat unkempt appearance, the brownie possesses a fierce sense of loyalty and duty. Unlike the well-known, mischievous fairy figures, the brownie's role is fundamentally different. It is a helper, and its power lies in its willingness to work diligently and quietly without seeking attention or praise. The brownie's primary function within folklore is as a nocturnal worker, a spirit that becomes active when the humans of the household are asleep. As the family rests, the brownie silently labors, performing household chores and tasks with a level of thoroughness that ensures the home is in good order by morning. From sweeping the hearth, mending clothes, milking cows, or even threshing grain, the brownie serves as an unseen force, ensuring that life continues smoothly within the household. Its contributions are invaluable, yet they go largely unnoticed, and that perhaps is part of the brownie's quiet magic. What sets the brownie apart from many other folklore creatures is that it does not demand direct payment for its labor. Unlike the leprechaun, who is famously associated with treasure and cunning, or the banshee, who heralds death with her mournful cry, the brownie operates on an entirely different level of interaction. The brownie's bond with a family is based on mutual respect and an unspoken understanding, forming a unique moral contract. The spirit expects nothing more than a simple token of appreciation, a gift of food, or a small offering left out for it. In return, the brownie performs its duties without expectation of formal payment or acknowledgement. However, this bond is fragile, and the brownie's goodwill can be easily broken. The terms of the agreement are clear: respect, and a simple offering in exchange for work. Should a family fail to honor the spirit's needs, or worse, offer it wages or clothes, the bond is shattered, and the brownie may leave, sometimes retaliating in ways that disrupt the household and create mischief. This interplay between gratitude and disrespect, between gift and transaction, lies at the heart of the brownie's role in folklore, making it not just a helper, but a guardian of household traditions and values. At the heart of the brownie's existence is its role within the daily life of the family or household. In many ways, the brownie represents a connection between the family and the natural world, as well as the unseen forces that govern everyday life. The brownie is often thought to inhabit the rural homes of the Highlands or the isolated farmsteads of Ireland, where life can be harsh and the workload demanding. In these settings, the brownie provides an invaluable service, becoming a part of the rhythms of the home in a way that is both magical and practical. The brownie's work is carried out primarily during the night, as it is said to be invisible to the human eye. The creature operates in the quiet hours while the family sleeps, ensuring that chores are completed and the household runs smoothly. When morning comes, the family members may awaken to find that their tasks have been completed, hearths swept clean, floors polished, laundry mended, and food prepared. This labor, although invisible, is deeply appreciated by those who benefit from it, and over time, it becomes a comforting certainty in rural life. In many cases, the work of the brownie extends to taking care of the animals on the farm. Cows may be milked, chickens fed, and crops harvested with care. While the family slumbers, the brownie tends to the needs of the animals, ensuring that no part of the household is neglected. In agricultural communities, this level of assistance was crucial, especially when families were small and the workload was often overwhelming. For many, the brownie was more than just a myth. It was a lifeline, a symbol of the unseen forces that help sustain life on the farm. However, the brownie's work is not solely physical. The spirit is also seen as a protector of the home, watching over the family and safeguarding them from misfortune. The brownie's actions are believed to be motivated by a deep sense of duty to the family it serves. While other spirits might be more capricious or malevolent, the brownie operates from a place of loyalty and care. This protection is especially apparent in the way the brownie responds to the family's needs, often anticipating problems and addressing them before they become crises. In many ways, the brownie embodies the Celtic ideal of reciprocal relationships with nature. It is not a creature that seeks to dominate or control, but one that seeks balance and harmony with the human world. Its work is selfless, performed out of a sense of obligation, and it exists in a symbiotic relationship with the family. This connection between the brownie and the family mirrors the importance of reciprocity in Celtic cultures, where mutual respect between the human world and the natural world was central to survival. The bond between the brownie and the family is perhaps one of the most intriguing aspects of this folkloric figure. Unlike other spirits or supernatural beings in Celtic folklore, the brownie does not demand recognition or riches in exchange for its services. Instead, its needs are simple: respect and small offerings of food. The exchange is based on a deep understanding of mutual benefit. The brownie's presence in the home is voluntary. It is not bound to serve a family, but chooses to do so. It is believed that the brownie comes to a household out of its own free will, offering its assistance in exchange for the offerings left for it. This aspect of the brownie's role in folklore speaks to the importance of hospitality and respect in Celtic culture. The offering of food or a token of gratitude is seen not as payment but as a sign of mutual respect. The types of offerings that would appease the brownie were often simple, everyday items: a bowl of cream, a chunk of butter, or perhaps a dish of porridge left out by the hearth. The offering was meant to be a gesture of thanks, acknowledging the brownie's help in the household. However, it was understood that these offerings were not to be considered payment in the traditional sense. To offer the brownie money or new clothes was seen as an insult, a misunderstanding of the nature of the relationship. The brownie was not a hired servant, but a spirit bound by an unspoken contract. To offer it wages or gifts was to break the sacred bond between the two parties. While the brownie is primarily known for its helpfulness and loyalty, it is not without its limits. If the family fails to honor the unspoken agreement or treats the brownie with disrespect, the spirit can turn mischievous or even leave the household altogether. One of the most important taboos in brownie lore is the offering of payment or new clothes. If a family offers the brownie new clothes, it is believed that the spirit will take offense and depart, never to return. This rule serves as a reminder that the brownie's labor is not transactional, but rather a part of the larger relationship between the human and the supernatural world. When a family breaks the unspoken bond, the brownie's departure can be accompanied by mischief and trouble. The household might find that their work is no longer done, or that things have gone awry. Tasks may be left unfinished, and a sense of disorder may take hold of the home. The brownie's absence can create a palpable emptiness, as the household that once flourished with the spirit's quiet assistance is now left to fend for itself. This mischief serves as a warning to the family to respect the brownie's needs and to honor the reciprocal relationship. The idea of the brownie leaving also emphasizes the importance of gratitude in Celtic folklore. The brownie is not a creature to be taken for granted, and its services are not guaranteed. Just as it provides for the family, it expects the family to provide for it in turn. The breaking of this contract is a violation of the moral and spiritual laws of the land, and the consequences can be severe. In some stories, the brownie's departure is even accompanied by a more extreme form of retaliation. If a family treats the brownie with disrespect, the spirit may leave and cause chaos in the household. The family may find themselves plagued by misfortune or small unexplained events that disrupt their lives. These tales of the brownie's departure are often told as cautionary tales, reminding people of the importance of respect, hospitality, and honor in their dealings with the supernatural world. The brownie, as an unseen household helper, plays a significant role in the folklore of Scotland and Northern Ireland. It embodies the deep cultural values of reciprocity, respect, and mutual benefit that were central to Celtic life. As a spirit that works tirelessly and without expectation of reward, the brownie represents the ideal of selflessness and quiet service. However, its relationship with the family is not without its boundaries. The brownie's labor is given freely but requires respect in return, and failure to honor this unspoken contract can lead to mischief, misfortune, or even the brownie's departure. Through the brownie stories, we learn important lessons about gratitude, hospitality, and the delicate balance between the human and the supernatural world. The brownie's role as an unseen helper speaks to the profound connection between people and the land they inhabit, as well as the supernatural forces that are believed to govern it. In Celtic folklore, the brownie is not just a helpful spirit, but a reminder of the importance of maintaining harmony with the unseen world. In the deep recesses of Irish folklore, few figures evoke as much fear and awe as the Dullahan, the headless horseman who rides the midnight roads in search of souls. Cloaked in shadow and darkness, the Dullahan is not just a ghostly rider, it is an embodiment of death itself, an agent of finality. The terror that follows the Dullahan is not of the ordinary kind. This is no common ghost or phantom. It is a force that drives all before it in a terrifying procession of death, its very presence marking the end of one life and the beginning of another on the other side. The figure of the Dullahan is striking in its simplicity and terror. It is a tall, imposing rider on a powerful black steed, galloping through the night with unnatural speed and force. But the most frightening aspect of this creature is its lack of a head. The Dullahan is a decapitated rider, its severed head clutched in one arm, often described as decaying and grotesque. The head itself is said to be a thing of horror, a moldy, rotting visage, with eyes that are constantly shifting, darting, scanning the surroundings with a malevolent and unsettling gaze. Its grin is often described as being stretched into a permanent, ghastly smile, making the Dullahan's appearance all the more horrifying. This head, with its gruesome appearance, is not just a symbol of death. It is the very instrument by which the Dullahan carries out its grim work. The head is often seen as glowing or emitting a sickly light, illuminating the Dullahan's path and casting a pall over the surrounding area. The Dullahan is a creature of the night, its arrival marked by the sound of galloping hooves and the chilling glow of its head. The world around it seems to bend and warp under the weight of its presence, as if the very fabric of reality cannot hold steady in the face of this agent of mortality. Riding its steed through the night, the Dullahan is a figure that symbolizes the finality of death. Its job is not just to announce death, it brings it. The Dullahan is both the herald and the executor, the ultimate figure of fate that brings a swift and terrible end to the lives of the unfortunate souls it comes across. Its relentless ride through the night is a journey that never ends, forever seeking out those whose time has come. The Dullahan's abilities are deeply tied to its role as the harbinger of death, and it is said that the Dullahan's mere presence is enough to seal the fate of its victim. According to legend, the Dullahan's most terrifying power is its ability to call out a person's name. When the Dullahan speaks a person's name aloud, that individual is doomed, no matter where they are or how far away they may be. Death will come for them immediately, and there is no escaping it. The Dullahan's voice, deep and unrelenting, is enough to cause death to strike without warning. In some versions of the legend, the Dullahan is said to be capable of summoning a person's death by simply knowing their name. The call of the Dullahan is no ordinary cry. It is a spiritual summons, a declaration that a life has run its course and that the time has come for the soul to depart the mortal world. The Dullahan's power is absolute, and once the name is spoken, the fate of the person is sealed, regardless of where they are or how far from the creature they may be. The terrifying journey of the Dullahan is further amplified by the legend of the death coach, known in Irish folklore as the Quash Boda. This coach is said to be drawn by a team of headless horses, carrying the souls of the dead on their final journey. The coach itself is a grim and horrifying vehicle, its wheels said to be made from the bones of the dead, its body covered in the skins of humans, and its lanterns made from skulls. It is a silent and ghostly carriage, a specter of death that moves through the night, carrying the souls of the recently deceased to their final resting place. The Quash Boda is an eerie and terrifying image, a symbol of the unstoppable march of death that follows the Dullahan wherever it goes. In some accounts, the Dullahan is said to ride ahead of the death coach, leading the way for the souls that it is tasked with guiding. The horseman's head illuminates the path ahead, casting a sickly glow over the dark roads and signaling to all who witness it that death has arrived. As it moves, the Dullahan is said to leave a trail of doom in its wake, marking the end of a soul's journey on Earth and the beginning of its passage into the other world. Despite its terrifying appearance and overwhelming power, the Dullahan is not invincible. It is, in fact, bound by a surprising weakness: the power of gold. In the face of this shining, incorruptible metal, the Dullahan, for all its fearsome presence, is rendered powerless. This vulnerability is a critical aspect of the Dullahan's lore, as it introduces an element of hope in the otherwise hopeless legend. Gold, a symbol of purity and celestial light, is said to have the ability to repel the Dullahan and its steed. Even the smallest piece of gold, such as a gold coin or a gold pin, is enough to make the Dullahan turn back in fear. In some accounts, it is said that the Dullahan cannot cross a stream or a river if a piece of gold is present, as the light from the gold is strong enough to disrupt the creature's dark power. This makes gold not just a symbol of wealth, but a safeguard against the very forces of death. The vulnerability of the Dullahan to gold can be seen as a reflection of the duality of light and darkness, life and death, that is central to many myths. While the Dullahan is an unstoppable force of death, it is ultimately vulnerable to the purity and incorruptibility of gold, a substance that represents the divine and the eternal. In a world ruled by death, gold stands as a beacon of hope, a glimmer of light that can push back against the inevitable march of time. In some versions of the legend, it is also said that the Dullahan is terrified of the sound of bells. Church bells, in particular, are thought to have the power to ward off the Dullahan, sending it fleeing into the darkness. This further emphasizes the theme of light and darkness, with the sound of the bell symbolizing the divine and the sanctified power of life, while the Dullahan is associated with the darkness of death and the unknown. This vulnerability introduces an intriguing layer to the Dullahan's character. Despite its terror-inducing powers, the creature is not entirely invincible. It is bound by certain forces, gold, bells, that can hold it at bay. This adds a sense of balance to the otherwise overwhelming and unstoppable nature of death. While the Dullahan may represent the inevitable end, there are forces in the world that can disrupt its progress, if only momentarily. The Dullahan, the headless horseman of Irish folklore, stands as one of the most powerful and terrifying figures in the realm of Celtic mythology. As an agent of death, it embodies the finality of mortality and the inescapable nature of fate. Its eerie appearance, its ability to summon death with a simple utterance of a name, and its relentless ride through the night make the Dullahan an unforgettable figure in folklore. Yet, the Dullahan's vulnerability to gold and its fear of bells reveal an important nuance in its role. Despite its power, it is not invincible. It is, in fact, subject to certain rules, and this vulnerability provides a glimmer of hope amidst the terror it spreads. The Dullahan is a reminder that even in the face of death, there are forces, however, small that can push back against the darkness, if only for a moment. The Dullahan's role in Irish folklore speaks to the deeper themes of life and death, light and dark, and the inescapable nature of mortality. It reminds us that death is both terrifying and inevitable, but it also offers us a glimpse of the forces that shape our world, forces that we may not fully understand, but that continue to influence us in ways both seen and unseen. The Dullahan, with its haunting cry and its unstoppable march, is a timeless reminder of the delicate balance between life and death that exists in the folklore of the Celtic world. The Selkies, known also as the Seal Folk, are a fascinating and haunting aspect of Celtic folklore. With their origins rooted deeply in the rich tradition of shape-shifting beings that traverse the boundaries between land and sea, these enigmatic creatures are said to live in the deep, dark waters of the seas, transforming from seals into humans at will. The mythology surrounding them is filled with both beauty and sorrow, as their lives are marked by both the allure of the ocean and the tragic consequences of their transformations. The Selkies are part of a broader tradition of water spirits, beings who are intrinsically tied to the sea, representing both its untamed beauty and its dangerous, unpredictable nature. Unlike many other supernatural creatures in folklore, the Selkies embody the duality of both the wild, untamable sea and the more familiar human world. Their existence on land is fleeting and sorrowful. For while they can shed their seal skins and assume human form, they are never truly at home in the world of humans. The ocean is their true home, and the stories of their lives reflect the eternal pull of the sea and the heartache of being torn between two worlds. The tale of the Selkies is perhaps best known for its central motif, the transformation of a beautiful seal woman into a human after her seal skin is stolen. This transformation often comes with a sense of captivity, as the Selkies, once trapped in human form, find themselves bound to a life that they can never fully embrace. The melancholy that defines their existence is a constant theme in the stories of these creatures, and it speaks to a deep connection with the natural world, as well as an understanding of the emotional and physical toll that separation from one's true home can have. The Selkies' legends are not merely stories of magical creatures. They are reflections of the human experience, particularly the themes of loss, longing, and the pull of one's true nature. The transformation of the Selkies from seal to human is a poignant metaphor for the tension between two different worlds, one that is wild and free, and the other that is constrained by human customs and expectations. One of the most famous Selkies legends centers around the story of a farmer who, while walking along the shore, comes across a group of Selkies women who have shed their seal skins to dance in the moonlight. In a moment of temptation, the farmer steals the skin of one of the women, trapping her in human form and preventing her from returning to the sea. The woman, now unable to revert to her seal form, is forced to live with the farmer and become his wife. The story is deeply tragic, as the Selkies woman, though loving and dutiful, is never truly happy. She is bound to a life on land, away from the ocean that she longs for. Despite the kindness of her human husband, she is consumed by an overwhelming sense of homesickness, a longing for the sea that she can never escape. The woman's sadness is palpable, and her longing for the waves is both heartbreaking and inevitable. She knows that her true nature is tied to the water, and no matter how hard she tries to build a life in the human world, she will always feel incomplete, always yearning for the sea. The farmer, though well-meaning, does not understand the depth of the Selkies woman's pain. He believes that by keeping her on land, he has bound her to him, but in reality, he has trapped her in a life of misery. This sense of captivity is the central theme of the Selkies legends, and it speaks to the broader themes of separation, loss, and the unattainable. The woman is forever torn between her love for the farmer and her yearning for the ocean, and she can never fully find peace in either world. The tale takes a tragic turn when the couple's children, unaware of the true nature of their mother, discover her sealskin hidden away. The moment the Selkies woman touches her skin, she is overcome by a flood of emotions, memories of the sea, the freedom of her former life, and the deep, aching sadness that she has carried all these years. With a tearful farewell to her children and her human family, the Selkies woman plunges back into the sea, leaving behind the life she had built on land. This story is a powerful and haunting reflection of the theme of captivity, as the Selkies woman is both physically and emotionally trapped in a world that is not her own. Her return to the sea is both a relief and a sorrow, for while she is finally reunited with her true home, she is also forced to leave behind the family she had come to love. The legacy of this story endures because it speaks to a universal human experience, the tension between duty and desire, the yearning for freedom, and the deep, aching sorrow that comes from being torn between two worlds. The theme of captivity is central to the Selkies legends, and it is closely tied to the motif of the captive bride. In these tales, the Selkies woman is taken from her true home and forced to live a life in the human world, where she is often treated kindly but never fully happy. Her captivity is not just physical, but emotional. She is trapped by the loss of her sealskin, which represents both her freedom and her true identity. The motif of the captive bride is common in folklore, and it often carries with it themes of loss, longing, and the inability to return to one's true home. The Selkies woman, in this sense, embodies these themes in a particularly poignant way. She is a being caught between two worlds, the wild, untamable sea, and the structured, domestic world of humans. Her struggle to reconcile these two aspects of her nature speaks to the broader human experience of feeling torn between competing desires, identities, and duties. The idea of the captive bride is also closely tied to the notion of loss, loss of identity, loss of freedom, and loss of a sense of belonging. The Selkies woman, once trapped on land, is unable to fully embrace either world. She is forever caught in a state of longing, unable to return to the sea, but also unable to fully integrate into the human world. This sense of loss is compounded by the passage of time as the Selkies woman grows older. She becomes more resigned to her fate, but the longing for the sea never fully leaves her. Her heart is always pulled back to the waves, and the memory of her former life is a constant source of sorrow. The Selkies legends also reflect the broader theme of the pull of one's true nature. No matter how much the Selkies woman may try to embrace her new life, she is always drawn back to the sea. This tension between the desire to belong to one world and the inescapable call of another is a recurring theme in folklore, and it speaks to the deeper human desire for connection, belonging, and identity. The Selkies woman's return to the sea represents the ultimate act of self-actualization, a recognition of who she truly is, and a rejection of the constraints of the world that have held her captive. The stories of the Selkies are more than just tales of shape-shifting sea creatures. They are powerful reflections of the human experience, exploring themes of loss, longing, and the tension between different worlds. The Selkies woman's captivity is both literal and symbolic, representing the struggles that many people face in reconciling their desires with the realities of the world around them. These tales have endured for centuries because they tap into universal themes that continue to resonate with audiences. The Selkies legends speak to the deep human desire to understand the pull of one's true nature and the heartache that comes from being torn between competing desires. They are stories of yearning and loss, of love and sorrow, and of the inescapable longing for home. The Selkies woman's return to the sea is a bittersweet conclusion to her story, a reminder that sometimes, no matter how much we may love the world we are in, there is always a part of us that belongs somewhere else. The legacy of these tales endures in the modern imagination as they continue to inspire art, literature, and storytelling. The figure of the Selkies has become a symbol of the tension between the human and the natural world, and the stories of these creatures continue to captivate audiences with their beauty, melancholy, and mystery. Whether as a metaphor for the pull of one's true identity or as a reflection of the complex relationships between humanity and nature, the Selkies remain a powerful figure in folklore. In conclusion, the Selkies are more than just shape-shifting creatures from the depths of the sea. They are powerful symbols of the struggle between two worlds, the conflict between duty and desire, and the deep sorrow that comes from being torn between two identities. Their stories speak to the heart of the human condition, and their legacy continues to resonate with audiences today, reminding us of the timeless power of myth and the enduring pull of the sea. The Nuckalavy is one of the most terrifying and grotesque creatures to emerge from the folklore of Scotland, a being whose form is a hideous fusion of both horse and rider. Descriptions of the Nuckalavy often depicted as a nightmarish, skinless creature, with a rider whose body is a twisted amalgamation of man and beast, complete with grotesque features and an aura of pure, malevolent force. This demon from the sea embodies both the power of nature and the terrifying wrath of the unknown, and its very presence evokes dread and despair in those who encounter it. While many creatures of folklore are associated with the land or the air, the Nuckalavy is intimately tied to the sea, a creature that transcends the boundaries of these realms, blending the maritime and terrestrial into a monstrous form. The Nuckalavy's terrifying appearance is described in many different ways, but the core of its description remains constant. It is a creature that embodies both strength and horror. Its body is said to be composed of a horse's back fused with the torso of a man, with the rider's limbs and body twisting unnaturally as though they were part of the beast itself. The rider's torso often appears to grow directly from the back of the horse, merging with it in such a way that it seems like a single creature rather than two distinct beings. The Nuckalavy's legs are often described as being impossibly long, with claws at the end of its fingers and feet that scrape the ground as it moves, adding an unnerving, echoing sound to its approach. The head of the creature is said to be equally terrifying. The horse's head is massive and gaping, with eyes that burn with an unholy red light, while the rider's face is often described as being that of a human's. but so utterly twisted that it is nearly unrecognizable. The skin is absent, exposing raw muscles and veins that pulse with an unnatural vitality, giving the creature a look of gruesome vitality. The appearance of the Nukkalevi is the epitome of horror, a being that combines the primal power of the horse with the terrifying presence of the human rider, all while existing without skin or true form, as though it were a creature of pure violence and destruction. The Nukkalevi is an embodiment of nature's darker aspects. It is associated with destruction, disease, and the unseen forces that lie just beyond human comprehension. As a demon of the sea, it represents the chaos and danger of the ocean, with its ability to cross both land and water, spreading devastation wherever it goes. It is a creature that lives in the liminal spaces between the known world and the unknown, a symbol of the primal forces of nature that humans have always feared and tried to understand. The folklore surrounding the Nukkalevi portrays it as a creature that embodies both the terror of the unknown and the power of the natural world, a demon whose very existence is an affront to the order of the world. Its presence brings with it not just physical destruction, but also a sense of helplessness and despair. The Nukkalevi represents the chaos that lies beyond human control, a force of nature that cannot be reasoned with or stopped by mere human effort. The Nukkalevi is not a passive creature. It is one that actively seeks to bring destruction and chaos wherever it goes. According to folklore, the Nukkalevi is a being of immense destructive power, capable of causing plagues, illness, and widespread devastation of the land. Its very presence is said to be a harbinger of destruction, as it carries with it the power to ruin crops, sicken livestock, and cause widespread pestilence. One of the most frightening aspects of the Nukkalevi is its ability to travel across both land and water, an ominous reminder that no place is safe from its wrath. Whether it emerges from the depths of the sea or travels across the land, the Nukkalevi leaves a trail of destruction in its wake. It is said to be particularly powerful when it is in motion, as its very presence is an omen of impending doom. The Nukkalevi's destructive abilities are not just physical, but are also linked to the supernatural forces that it commands. In many stories, the creature is responsible for causing entire villages to fall into ruin, bringing pestilence, death, and famine to the areas it haunts. The terror the Nukkalevi brings is not just physical, it is also deeply psychological. The very idea of a creature that can cross both land and sea with such ease creates a sense of powerlessness and fear for the people who lived in the regions where the Nukkalevi was said to roam. It was a constant reminder that nature itself could be an uncontrollable and deadly force. The Nukkalevi's ability to bring destruction to entire communities was a reflection of the dangers that came from living so close to the natural world, where the forces of nature were often unpredictable and beyond human understanding. The creature's power to cause illness and plague is one of the most terrifying aspects of its lore. The Nukkalevi is often described as being linked to disease, with its breath or touch being enough to cause widespread sickness among those who come into contact with it. This association with disease further emphasizes the Nukkalevi's role as a supernatural force of destruction, a being that can bring both physical and emotional devastation to those who are unfortunate enough to encounter it. The Nukkalevi's ability to spread illness is especially powerful because it is so difficult to escape. The creature is not bound by the natural limits of geography. It can travel across land and sea, bringing its curse to any community in its path. Its arrival is a signal of impending doom, a reminder that no one is truly safe from the forces of nature and the supernatural. The very presence of the Nukkalevi is enough to inspire fear and dread, as it represents the darkest aspects of the natural world, a creature that embodies the uncontrollable forces of destruction and decay. Despite its terrifying power, the Nukkalevi is not invincible. According to folklore, the creature has a surprising vulnerability: fresh running water. It is said that the Nukkalevi cannot cross streams, rivers, or other bodies of fresh running water, and that crossing these boundaries provides a sanctuary from its wrath. This weakness is both practical and symbolic, as it provides a glimmer of hope for those who are being pursued by the Nukkalevi. The concept of water as a protective force is not unique to the Nukkalevi. Water in many cultures is considered to be a boundary between the human world and the supernatural, and in many traditions, it is seen as a purifying and protective element. The idea that the Nukkalevi can be stopped by crossing running water reinforces the idea that the natural world is not entirely without defense against supernatural forces. It is a reminder that, even in the face of overwhelming terror and destruction, there is still a way to find safety and protection. The weakness of the Nukkalevi also speaks to the broader themes of folklore and mythology. Many creatures in folklore are portrayed as having vulnerabilities that can be exploited by the clever or the brave. The Nukkalevi's vulnerability to water provides a symbol of hope in the face of its overwhelming power. It reminds us that even the most terrifying of creatures can be overcome, and that the forces of nature, while powerful, are not entirely beyond human understanding or control. The idea that water can stop the Nukkalevi also connects the creature to the broader theme of boundaries and thresholds in folklore. Water is often seen as a liminal space, a boundary between the known world and the unknown. The Nukkalevi's inability to cross running water reflects this idea, as it is unable to cross the boundary between the human world and the supernatural. This boundary serves as both a physical and symbolic line of defense, separating the safety of human life from the chaos and destruction that the Nukkalevi represents. The Nukkalevi is one of the most terrifying and complex creatures in Scottish folklore, embodying both the destructive power of the sea and the uncontrollable forces of nature. Its appearance as a grotesque fusion of horse and rider, its ability to bring plague and destruction, and its terrifying presence on both land and water make it a symbol of the power of the natural world and the fear of the unknown. Despite its fearsome nature, the Nukkalevi's vulnerability to fresh running water provides a glimmer of hope, a reminder that even the most powerful creatures of folklore have their weaknesses. As a creature of myth and legend, the Nukkalevi serves as a reminder of the dangers that lie in the natural world and the ways in which folklore has sought to explain and contain those dangers. Its story is one of terror and survival, a narrative that speaks to the eternal human struggle to understand and overcome the forces of nature. In the end, the Nukkalevi remains a symbol of both the terror and the resilience that define the human experience in the face of the unknown. In the misty, shadowed marshes and bogs of the Celtic world, strange, flickering lights have long been a source of fascination, fear, and mystery. These lights, known as will-o'-the-wisps, have haunted the damp, desolate landscapes of Scotland, Ireland, and northern England for centuries. Appearing as small, glowing orbs that float in the night air, they seem to dance just beyond the reach of the human eye, leading travelers astray deep into the wild and treacherous terrain of marshy ground. To encounter these lights was to be drawn into an eerie and perilous game with the unknown, and the consequences were often fatal. The origins of the will-o'-the-wisp are rooted in ancient folklore, with explanations for the lights varying widely across cultures. Some believe them to be mischievous fairies, others the souls of the dead, or even malevolent spirits leading the living toward certain doom. Regardless of the source, The will-o'-the-wisp became a symbol of danger, mystery, and trickery, and the tales surrounding them have persisted for centuries. These lights were not just a natural phenomenon, but were woven into the very fabric of folklore and superstition, with each culture offering its own interpretation and explanation for their appearance. The will-o'-the-wisp, often referred to in the Celtic world as jack-o'-lantern or hinky-punk, was believed to be a dangerous creature of the night, guiding travelers toward perilous bogs or marshes where they would be trapped by the soft, treacherous ground. These lights were sometimes described as lanterns, hanging in the air, as though a lost soul were wandering, trying to find its way back home. Yet, in the darkness of the marshes, they had an unsettling, ethereal beauty, casting an eerie glow that appeared both inviting and threatening. For the people who lived in the regions where these lights appeared, the will-o'-the-wisp was a reminder of the dangers lurking in the wild places of the world, where the boundaries between the living and the dead, the known and the unknown, were often indistinct. The lights were a manifestation of the mysterious forces that govern the landscape, a reminder that not all things in nature were benign or easily understood. The will-o'-the-wisp's role in folklore was, above all else, one of danger. Its very existence was a warning to travelers and wanderers, especially those who found themselves crossing the marshlands or bogs at night. To chase the glowing lights was to risk getting lost, trapped, or even lost to the merciless quagmire that lay beneath the surface of the seemingly tranquil bog. In many stories, those who ventured too close to the lights found themselves bogged down in the swampy muck, unable to escape the grasp of the treacherous earth, sometimes sinking to their deaths. The lure of the light, tempting the curious, was often the last thing that a person would see before they were swallowed up by the bog. These lights were seen as a warning to those who dared to wander too far off the path. The dangers of the marshes were not only physical, but also metaphorical, representing the perils of venturing into the unknown without caution. In some tales, the lights were said to be the souls of the dead, leading travelers to their watery graves in order to keep them company in the afterlife. In others, they were described as malicious spirits, intentionally setting travelers on the wrong path, delighting in their misery and confusion. The will-o'-the-wisp was not just a benign phenomenon. It was a trickster spirit, luring people to their doom with its deceptive glow. One of the most enduring aspects of the will-o'-the-wisp's legend is its association with mischief and deception. The lights were often said to flicker and vanish just when the traveler thought they had drawn near, only to reappear again in the distance, further away than before. This endless chase for something elusive became a symbol for the human desire for knowledge or fortune, always pursuing something that remained just out of reach. It also embodied the idea that some things were better left unknown, and to chase after the lights was to chase after something dangerous and unattainable. The risk of becoming lost was not just a physical one. In many stories, the will-o'-the-wisp's light led people into places where they would become trapped by the landscape itself, unable to find their way out. The marshes and bogs were places where even the most experienced travelers could easily get lost, with hidden pools of water, thick vegetation, and treacherous footing. The will-o'-the-wisp became a symbol of how easy it was to become disoriented, and how the natural world could be both beautiful and deadly. The folklore surrounding the will-o'-the-wisp also highlights the importance of caution and respect for the land. In many stories, the will-o'-the-wisp's lights were a reminder of the consequences of ignoring the natural balance, of straying too far from the safety of known paths. It was not just a trickster spirit, but also a lesson in humility and respect for the forces of nature. In a world where human beings were at the mercy of the natural world, the willow, the wisp, served as a reminder that the wilderness was both a source of life and a place of danger. While the will-o'-the-wisp holds a prominent place in folklore and myth, science offers a more grounded explanation for the eerie lights seen in marshes and bogs. The phenomenon that we now understand as the will-o'-the-wisp is known as chemiluminescence, which occurs when gas is emitted from decaying organic matter, particularly methane, spontaneously ignite. The result is a faint, bluish-green glow, which is commonly observed in marshy areas where organic material is abundant. This scientific explanation helps to demystify the will-o'-the-wisp, offering a natural reason for the glowing lights. However, the mystery and eerie nature of the phenomenon still persist, and many cultures continue to tie the lights to supernatural causes. The interplay between folklore and science creates an intriguing dynamic where the two explanations coexist, each adding depth and complexity to the phenomenon. The folklore surrounding the will-o'-the-wisp, with its tales of mischievous fairies and tormented souls, persists even in the face of scientific explanation. While we now know that the lights are caused by a natural chemical process, the stories of trickster spirits and lost souls continue to captivate our imaginations. This coexistence of the scientific and the supernatural is a fascinating aspect of folklore, as it reflects the human desire to understand and explain the world around us, while still holding on to the mystery and wonder that myths and legends bring. In many ways, the will-o'-the-wisp stands as a perfect example of how folklore and science can coexist. The scientific explanation gives us an understanding of how the lights are formed, but the folklore imbues the phenomenon with meaning and significance. The stories of the will-o'-the-wisp are not just about a natural occurrence. They are about human experiences, fears, and desires. The lights are a manifestation of the unknown, a reflection of the human fascination with what lies just beyond our understanding. The presence of will-o'-the-wisps in folklore also speaks to the way in which humans have always tried to make sense of the world around them. In an age before scientific explanations, people looked to myth and legend to explain the mysteries of the natural world. The willow, the wisp, with its flickering light and its ability to deceive, became a symbol of the dangers of the unknown. It was a reminder that not all things were meant to be understood, and that some things were better left to the realm of mystery and wonder. Despite the scientific understanding of the phenomenon, the folklore of the will-o'-the-wisp continues to endure. Its association with the supernatural, with fairies, spirits, and otherworldly forces, remains a powerful part of many cultures' mythology. In a world where science has provided explanations for many of nature's mysteries, the will-o'-the-wisp remains a reminder that some things still elude our understanding. It is a creature of the night, a symbol of the hidden world that exists just beyond our reach. The will-o'-the-wisp is a fascinating creature of folklore, a trickster spirit that has captivated the imagination of people for centuries. Its mysterious glow, appearing in the darkest corners of marshes and bogs, luring travelers toward danger, has become a symbol of both the allure and the danger of the unknown. Whether viewed as mischievous fairies or tormented souls, the lights serve as a reminder of the mysteries that exist in the natural world and the dangers that lie just beyond the safety of the known path. While modern science has provided an explanation for the lights, the folklore surrounding the will-o'-the-wisp continues to endure. Its stories are a testament to the human need to explain the unexplained to give meaning to the mysteries of the world. The coexistence of folklore and science is a powerful reminder that the natural world is full of wonders and dangers, and that some things are better left to the realm of myth and legend. In the end, the will-o'-the-wisp remains one of the most enduring and enigmatic figures in folklore. Its light, both beautiful and deadly, continues to captivate our imaginations and remind us of the ancient stories that have shaped our understanding of the world. Whether seen as a trickster spirit or a tormented soul, the will-o'-the-wisp will continue to haunt the bogs and marshes of the Celtic world for generations to come. Deep within the Scottish Highlands, where the mist clings to the rugged hills and the wind carries the weight of ancient stories, there exists a creature that embodies the dark, mysterious forces of the land, the Cú. This immense fairy hound is one of the most terrifying and enigmatic figures in Scottish folklore, a creature whose very presence strikes fear into the hearts of those who encounter it. Often described as a monstrous hound, its green fur, size, and eerie behavior make it a formidable figure in the folklore of the Highlands. The Cú primary role in legend is that of a harbinger of death. It is said to appear as an omen, signaling the imminent passing of a soul. With its fearsome howl and supernatural strength, the Cú has become synonymous with death, guiding souls from the mortal realm to the other world. Its terrifying nature and the ritualized countdown associated with its appearance have made it a symbol of the boundary between life and death, reminding us of the fragile and fleeting nature of existence. In Scottish folklore, the Cú is more than just a creature of terror. It is a psychopomp, a guide for the souls of the departed, leading them safely to the afterlife. The dog's powerful bark serves as a countdown, marking the passage from life to death and signaling the end of a mortal existence. Though terrifying, the Cú is also a figure of transition, a reminder that death is not an end but a journey to another realm. The role of the Cú in Scottish folklore is deeply tied to death and the afterlife. It is most often portrayed as a harbinger of doom, signaling the death of a person or a soul's impending journey to the other world. The Cú appearance is always foreboding and ominous, its massive form casting a shadow over the land. But it is not merely a creature of death, it also serves as a guide for souls crossing from the living world to the afterlife, playing a pivotal role in the belief systems of the people who inhabited the Highlands. The Cú most notable and chilling characteristic is its ritualized countdown, a series of 3 thunderous barks that signal imminent death. These barks are said to echo across the land, their sound carrying for miles. When the first bark rings out, it marks the beginning of the journey, the approach of death, and the soul's eventual departure from the world of the living. The second bark serves as a warning. The time for departure is near, and the soul must prepare to cross over. The final bark is the last call before the soul is taken, a powerful and final announcement that death has come. With the third bark, the soul is taken, guided by the Cú into the other world. In some versions of the legend, the Cú appearance is also associated with the death of a family member or loved one. The hound's arrival, followed by its 3 barks, serves as an announcement to the household that someone close to them will soon pass away. The Cú cry is both a warning and a form of communication from the other world, a reminder that life is finite and death is always just around the corner. The Cú role as a psychopomp is significant in Celtic mythology. It is not an agent of destruction or malice, but rather a figure that helps guide the soul through the process of death. The hound's bark may be fearsome, but it is not an instrument of terror. Instead, it represents the transition between life and death, a journey that every soul must make, no matter how much they fear it. The Kusith, with its strength and power, serves as a protector during this transition, ensuring that the soul is safely guided from the realm of the living to the afterlife. In some versions of the legend, the Kusith is said to accompany the soul through its journey, protecting it from the dangers that may lie ahead. It is a figure of both strength and compassion, ensuring that the soul passes from this world to the next with honor and dignity. The Kusith represents the natural cycle of life and death, a cycle that must be respected and acknowledged, for death is not the end, but a continuation of the journey. The Kusith symbolism is rich and complex, representing many aspects of life, death, and the supernatural in Scottish folklore. As a creature of the fairy realm, the Kusith bridges the divide between the mortal world and the other world. It is a figure that exists in the liminal space between life and death, embodying both the fears and the wonders that come with this transition. One of the most significant aspects of the Kusith symbolism is its dual nature, as both a harbinger of death and a guide for the soul. On the one hand, the Kusith represents the inevitability of death, a constant reminder that no one can escape the journey that all must take. The hound's powerful barks serve as a stark reminder that death is never far away, and that it can come at any time. Yet, on the other hand, the Kusith also represents the continuity of life, the idea that death is not an end but a transition to something else. The hound's role as a guide for souls emphasizes the cyclical nature of existence, where life and death are inseparable, and one flows into the other. The Kusith's green fur is another important aspect of its symbolism. Green is a color often associated with the supernatural, the fairy realm, and the liminal spaces between worlds. In many cultures, green represents the natural world, growth, and fertility, but it also signifies mystery, the unknown, and the uncanny. The Kusith's green fur ties it to the land of the fairies, to the other world, and to the natural forces that govern life and death. It is a color that represents both life and death, growth and decay, and the complex interplay between the two. The hound's massive size is also significant in its symbolism. In many cultures, animals that are larger than life, like the Kusith, are seen as embodiments of power and strength. The hound's imposing size emphasizes its role as a protector, a guardian of the soul as it transitions from one world to the next. It is a creature that commands respect, and its mere presence is enough to invoke fear and awe. The Kusith is a reminder that death, though inevitable, is not something to be feared. It is a force that can be faced with dignity, guided by the strength and power of the fairy hound. The Kusith's ability to cross between the realms of the living and the dead adds to its symbolism as a bridge between worlds. In Scottish folklore, the other world is often depicted as a place where the dead reside, but it is also a realm where powerful supernatural forces, like the Kusith, dwell. The hound's ability to travel between these realms suggests that death is not a final separation, but rather a passage, a movement from one world to the next. The Kusith, as a creature of both worlds, represents the connection between life and death, the living and the dead, and the continuous cycle that binds them together. The ritualized countdown of the Kusith's barks is another powerful symbol in Scottish folklore. The three barks, which mark the approach of death, represent the passage of time and the inevitability of the end. In many cultures, numbers hold significant meaning, and the number 3 is often associated with balance, harmony, and completeness. The three barks of the Kusith symbolize the final stages of life, the last breath, and the inevitable crossing from this world to the next. They are a reminder that time is finite, that every life has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that death is the final chapter in the story of existence. The Kusith's connection to the other world is at the heart of its role in Scottish folklore. As a fairy hound, it exists in the liminal space between the human world and the supernatural realm, embodying the mysteries and dangers that lie beyond the veil. The other world in Celtic mythology is a place where the dead reside, but it is also a realm where magical creatures, gods, and spirits exist. The Kusith's ability to traverse these realms makes it a powerful and significant figure in the mythological landscape. In some traditions, the Kusith is seen as a guardian of the other world, protecting the boundary between the living and the dead. It serves as a guide for souls, ensuring that they reach their destination in the afterlife. The hound's role as a protector of the soul is central to its function as a psychopomp, a guide that helps the dead make their journey to the next world. The Kusith is a figure that ensures the safe passage of the soul, keeping it from becoming lost or trapped in the liminal space between worlds. The other world is often described as a place of beauty, peace, and eternal rest, but it is also a place of danger, where powerful forces rule. The Kusith's role in guiding souls to this realm reflects the dual nature of the other world. It is a place of both rest and danger, a realm where the boundaries between life and death are fluid, and where powerful spirits and creatures reside. The Kusith, as a creature of both worlds, is the perfect guide for the soul, helping it navigate the perils and mysteries of the afterlife. The Kusith's role as a guardian of the soul also reflects the belief in the importance of the soul's journey after death. In Scottish folklore, the journey to the other world is seen as a significant and sacred process. The soul's passage from this world to the next is a transition that must be respected, and the Kusith's role as a guide emphasizes the importance of this journey. The hound's presence is a reminder that death is not the end, but a passage to another world, a world where the soul can find rest and peace. The Kusith, the great fairy hound of Scottish folklore, is a creature that embodies the mysteries and dangers of the natural and supernatural realms. Its imposing size, green fur, and ritualized countdown of barks make it a terrifying figure in the landscape of Scottish mythology. Yet, the Kusith is not simply a creature of death, it is a psychopomp, a guide for souls traveling to the other world. The Kusith's dual nature as both a harbinger of death and a guide for the soul reflects the complexities of life and death in Scottish folklore. It serves as a reminder that death is not an end, but a journey, and that the soul's passage to the other world must be respected and protected. As a guardian of the boundary between life and death, the Kusith holds a significant place in the mythological traditions of the Scottish Highlands, symbolizing the eternal cycle of life, death, and the journey beyond. In the end, the Kusith is a powerful figure in Scottish folklore, a creature that represents both the fear and the acceptance of death. Its role as a guide for souls and its connection to the fairy realm make it an enduring symbol of the supernatural forces that shape the world of the living and the dead. The Kusith's place in the mythology of the Highlands ensures that its terrifying and awe-inspiring legacy will continue to haunt the landscape for generations to come. In the heart of Welsh mythology, beneath the misty hills, dense woodlands, and the dark, enigmatic waters of its lakes, there is a creature that has haunted the Welsh imagination for centuries, the Afanc. This terrifying figure, which lurks beneath the surface of lakes, rivers, and bogs, is often described as a monstrous, otherworldly being, striking fear into the hearts of those who hear its name. With its origins deeply embedded in the folklore of Wales, the Afonk's legacy persists in local myths and legends, marking it as one of the most feared and fascinating creatures in Celtic mythology. The Afonk is often depicted as a large, water-dwelling creature that can take on various forms depending on the storyteller. Some describe it as a giant beaver, others as a crocodile-like creature, or even a dragon with immense, terrifying power. However, despite these varying interpretations, the Afonk is consistently portrayed as a creature tied to the waters, capable of controlling the flow of rivers and flooding entire valleys. It is seen as a guardian of lakes, but also a symbol of nature's unpredictable and dangerous forces. In Welsh culture, where water holds great significance, both spiritually and practically, the Afonk embodies both the sacred and the perilous qualities of water. This creature is not merely a beast to be feared, but a symbol of the power and mystery that the natural world holds. It represents the boundaries between the known and the unknown, and in many ways, it is a creature that reflects the ancient relationship between humans and nature, one that is fraught with both reverence and fear. The earliest known references to the Afonk come from Welsh texts, though its myth likely predates the written word by centuries. According to these stories, the Afonk's domain was not only the lakes, but also the surrounding landscapes. This creature was deeply intertwined with the geographic and natural features of Wales, particularly the regions around Snowdonia and the many lakes dotted across the country. The first clear mention of the Afonk appears in the Welsh mythological cycle known as the Mabinogion, where it is linked to local legends surrounding certain bodies of water. It is also mentioned in early texts like the Triads of the Island of Britain and other medieval Welsh manuscripts, which describe the creature's destructive power. The Afonk's role in these stories is primarily as a force of nature, capable of controlling water and creating chaos in the surrounding areas. In these early accounts, the Afonk is often portrayed as a guardian of a particular lake or river, guarding the waters and punishing anyone who dares to disrupt the balance of nature. The creature is also deeply connected to the concept of transformation and the otherworldly, with some tales suggesting that it is a spirit bound to the waters, unable to leave its watery home. In some versions, it is said that the Afonk could shapeshift, adopting a more human-like or monstrous form depending on its mood or the situation at hand. One of the most famous tales concerning the Afonk involves the legendary Welsh hero Peredur. According to the myth, Peredur sought to rid the land of the terrifying monster that had been causing havoc in the lakes, flooding nearby villages and drowning livestock. After a fierce battle, Peredur finally slays the Afonk and returns peace to the region. However, the creature's death does not end its legacy. It remains a symbol of the danger and power of water, and the lessons learned from the myth echo through Welsh folklore for centuries. As a creature of water, the Afonk holds significant symbolic importance in Welsh culture, particularly when considering the ancient and deep reverence the Celts held for water. Rivers, lakes, and streams were not only important for practical survival, they were seen as sacred. Water was believed to be a gateway to the other world, a medium for communicating with spirits, and a force of great power. In this context, the Afonk takes on a role much larger than that of a mere monster. It is a guardian of the water, a symbol of the untamable forces of nature. The Afonk is often associated with flooding and storms, and in many myths, it is said to be responsible for controlling or creating disasters in the natural world. In these stories, the Afonk does not just represent the destructive potential of water. It embodies the unpredictable and capricious nature of the forces beyond human control. In this way, it acts as a reminder that nature, no matter how familiar or useful it may seem, is always subject to forces that are beyond human comprehension and control. Furthermore, the Afank's role as a shapeshifter is particularly significant in this context. Water, with its ever-changing form, could represent transformation itself, and the Afank's ability to take on different shapes emphasizes its connection to the mutable and fluid nature of water. It can be both life-giving and destructive, a force that both sustains and drowns. The Afank's role in the mythology can also be interpreted as a force of balance in the natural world. By controlling the waters and bringing about floods, the Afank could be seen as maintaining equilibrium in the environment, ensuring that the natural flow of the land and water remained in harmony. However, this balance often comes at the cost of destruction, as the Afank is also portrayed as a violent and vengeful creature, punishing those who disturb its domain. The Afank's relationship with humans is complex and often marked by conflict. While it is primarily a creature tied to the natural world, it frequently interacts with human settlements, particularly those living near its watery home. It is said to terrorize nearby villages, causing floods and drowning people who venture too close to its lake. The creature's presence in folklore is often associated with danger and misfortune, particularly for those who fail to show proper respect to the waters and the forces of nature. In the most famous legends, humans attempt to slay the Afank in order to rid the land of its menace. One such tale involves a heroic figure who sets out to battle the Afank after it has caused widespread destruction in the surrounding villages. The battle is long and arduous, but the hero finally succeeds in killing the creature, either by using a weapon imbued with magical power or through sheer strength and cunning. This narrative serves as a metaphor for humanity's struggle against the uncontrollable forces of nature, a battle that, while often necessary, comes with great risk and sacrifice. However, the Afank's death does not always result in peace, as its departure from the mythic landscape often leaves behind a warning about the uncontrollable power of nature. Even after it has been slain, the Afank remains a symbol of the dangers of the wild, untamed forces of the world. The Afank shares several characteristics with other mythical water creatures found in Celtic folklore. One of the most obvious comparisons is with the Kelpie, a water spirit from Scottish mythology that is also known to inhabit lakes and rivers, often taking the form of a horse to lure humans to their doom. Like the Afank, the Kelpie is a creature of water, capable of transforming into different shapes and often associated with death and destruction. In a similar vein, the Afank can also be compared to other water monsters in various mythologies, such as the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland or the Nuckelavee in Orcadian folklore. These creatures, like the Afank, symbolize the mysterious and often dangerous nature of water. While their characteristics may differ, they all share the role of being creatures tied to water, embodying both the sustenance and terror that this element can provide. Moreover, the Afank's role as a guardian or protector of water mirrors that of otherworldly guardians in Celtic mythology. who are often tasked with maintaining the balance of nature. The Afonk, much like these guardians, serves to remind humans that there are forces in the natural world that should be respected and feared. Although the Afonk's presence in Welsh folklore has faded in comparison to other mythological creatures, it still holds a significant place in the cultural imagination of Wales. Modern retellings of the Afank story continue to capture the creature's terrors and mysteries, though it is often seen through a different lens, influenced by contemporary culture and imagination. In contemporary media, the Afonk is occasionally referenced in literature, television, and films, usually portrayed as a malevolent, water-dwelling creature. In many of these adaptations, the Afonk retains its connection to water and its role as a powerful force of destruction. But it is also often reimagined with modern interpretations of its mythology. In addition, the symbolism of the Afonk has found new life in modern storytelling, particularly as a representation of environmental concerns. As a creature of water, the Afonk now serves as a metaphor for humanity's relationship with natural resources, particularly water, and the consequences of pollution, overuse, and disregard for the balance of nature. Its role as a protector of water and nature can be seen as a warning about the potential consequences of failing to respect and protect our natural environment. The Afonk remains one of the most fascinating and terrifying creatures of Welsh folklore, embodying the deep reverence and fear that ancient cultures had for the forces of nature. As a creature of water, it represents both the life-giving and destructive power of rivers, lakes, and seas. Through its various forms and interactions with humans, the Afonk continues to serve as a potent symbol of the dangers of the natural world, a reminder that there are forces far beyond human control. While the creature may no longer haunt the lakes of Wales in the same way it once did, its legacy endures in folklore, modern retellings, and environmental discussions. The Afonk serves as a reminder of the uncontrollable forces of nature, of the need to respect the world around us, and of the power that lies hidden beneath the surface of the waters. The creatures and myths that inhabit the ancient lands of the Celts, whether it's the Banshee, the leprechaun, or the Afonk, serve as vivid representations of the fears, hopes, and wisdom of the Celtic people. These tales were born from a deep connection to nature, the elements, and the spiritual world, reflecting the Celts' understanding of the natural forces that shaped their daily lives. Each cryptid, spirit, or fairy in Celtic folklore has its own unique characteristics, but they share one thing in common. They embody the relationship between the physical and spiritual realms. In times past, the Celts believed that the boundary between the world of the living and the other world was thin, especially at certain times of the year, such as Samhain, when the veil was believed to be at its most porous. The fear of the unknown was real, and so was the reverence for the unseen forces that govern the world. These cryptids and myths were not merely fanciful tales, but were deeply rooted in the Celtic way of life, offering guidance, warnings, and moral lessons. The enduring legacy of these myths is undeniable. From ancient texts and oral traditions to contemporary retellings, Celtic creatures have found their way into modern literature, film, and art. Characters like the Banshee and Leprechaun have become iconic figures, often stripped of their original meanings but still maintaining a mystique and intrigue. These creatures, once embodiments of supernatural forces and cultural practices, are now woven into the fabric of modern fantasy and popular culture, where they continue to inspire and captivate audiences. Timeless lessons from Celtic folklore. The lessons embedded in Celtic folklore are as relevant today as they were in ancient times. A central theme in these myths is the deep respect for nature. The Celts understood that nature was a powerful force, one that could provide sustenance, healing, and beauty, but also destruction and terror. This respect for nature's power is evident in the many creatures that embody both creation and destruction, such as the Afonk, whose presence is tied to the balance of water and land. The Celts recognized that the natural world was not to be taken for granted, and these creatures served as reminders of that delicate balance. Celtic folklore also teaches about the boundaries between worlds. The concept of the other world is a constant theme, where spirits, gods, and beings exist just beyond the veil. This idea of an invisible realm that touches upon the everyday world offers profound insight into how the Celts viewed their existence. Life and death were seen as part of a continuous cycle, one that was interconnected with the spiritual world. Whether through the Banshee's mournful cry or the Khu Sith's eerie presence, these myths represent the invisible forces that shape human existence, reminding us that there is much in life that we cannot see or fully understand. Another timeless lesson from Celtic folklore is the importance of stories themselves. Myths were not just a form of entertainment, but a way of passing down knowledge, history, and values. The stories of cryptids and mythical beings were interwoven with lessons about morality, respect, and the power of the unseen. These tales served as a way to explain the unknown and to offer guidance in navigating a world full of danger and mystery. Despite their often terrifying qualities, the creatures of Celtic folklore also embody the strength, resilience, and wisdom of the Celtic people. These stories were not only warnings, but also celebrations of life's mysteries and the complexities of the human condition. The Celtic myths and cryptids remind us of the magic and mystery that once enveloped the natural world. In our modern age of technology and scientific understanding, it's easy to lose touch with the mysteries that once shaped our ancestors' lives. Yet, these ancient stories still have the power to stir our imaginations and challenge our perceptions of the world. They transport us back to a time when the world was full of unseen forces, when every hill, tree, and river had its own spirit or creature that shaped its history and meaning. In many ways, Celtic mythology invites us to reconnect with the past, to listen to the whispers of the past, and reflect on the relationship between humans and the natural world. These creatures, though born from a time of mystery and belief, continue to offer insight into the human condition. The lessons they impart about respect for nature, the complexity of life and death, and the mysteries of existence still resonate today. As we continue to move forward in a world dominated by technology and logic, perhaps it is time to pause and rediscover these ancient tales, to immerse ourselves in the mystery, to appreciate the beauty of the natural world, and to acknowledge that despite all our advancements, there are still forces beyond our control, mysterious, unseen, and awe-inspiring. Celtic folklore is a treasure trove of lessons, mysteries, and stories that continue to captivate us. It is a bridge that connects the past with the present, inviting us to explore the unseen, the magical, and the unknown. So, let us carry these tales with us, keeping the spirit of the Celts alive in our hearts as we navigate our own journey through life. The myths, cryptids, and legends of the Celtic world are not just relics of the past. They are part of the ongoing story of humanity, a story that will continue to unfold as long as we listen to the whispers of the world around us.